Northamptonshire,
home of Salsey Forest,
Stanwick Lakes
and BBC Radio Northampton.
Mark Arment, Softail, Tainted Love. Absolute 80s classic. 3:15 and a very good afternoon, Tuesday afternoon here on BBC Radio Northampton. Now, what do you understand by the term networking? It is a generic term, I suppose, but in business circles it might just have had a significant contribution to last week's news here that Northampton has taken the top business performance spot in a recent Experian report published in the national press just a short while ago. As a result, the call is going out to businesses and business owners not only in the town but also the rest of the county and I dare say the country too, to do more business-to-business networking. To tell me more about it, I've been joined by Sarah Hodgkins. She's wearing more than one hat this afternoon. She may not have realised it, but she is. She's a Mural artist and sign writer, and she's also part of a new networking group which will be forming very soon here in Northampton, notwithstanding the fact that she's been running one in Pottersbury in the recent past. Sarah, welcome.
Very well. Thank you very much for inviting me here.
You're welcome. What is a Mural artist? Before we get into networking, I'm sorry, I've just never heard the term before. What is it?
Mural, not neural.
Oh,
Mural artist.
You see what's in a word and what's in the spoken word. Neural, I suppose it is of the brain though, isn't it? Neural?
Neural, I guess it would be, yes. Neurologist, yes, I guess it would be. But no, mural artist. So I paint very large pictures for schools, for care homes, for public places, private clients.
You didn't start out with a spray can 15, 20 years ago, did you?
I used to have an airbrush, actually, many years ago. It's probably still on my parents' farm somewhere. But no, I tend to use brushes now rather than spray cans.
So we're not talking graffiti or anything like that?
We are not,
That's
no.
good. Sign writing as well. Sign writing is an interesting one because sign writing is itself one step off a requirement of many, many businesses. If you
Absolutely.
look at sign writing, many people will think about pubs, but for any shop,
Absolutely.
people's cars, people's delivery vans and so on, sign writing, it communicates business.
Absolutely. I mean, it's the fundamental thing of marketing. You know, you need to tell people who you are and what you're doing. So I help businesses to get their messages out there on the front of their shops.
Which means that if in a recession businesses are going to the wall, you're actually in the front line of people who are having difficulties because your business will suffer as a result.
Yes, sign writing is a relatively small part of what I do, I guess, but we've managed to ride the recession wave quite well, I think, and the business has actually continued to grow in the last few years rather than retract.
Is that because you are a niche market player? I mean, are you a one-woman business?
I am a one-woman business, yes. So niche businesses will always do better in a recession because they are almost, ring-fencing themselves and protecting themselves and saying, this is my patch and this is what I do. So it's actually almost the opposite from what you think is the right thing to do in business.
But at the same time, we talk about difficulties here in Northampton Town Centre and virtually every town, certainly in the county, if not the country as well, is seeing lots and lots of empty shop spaces.
Absolutely.
Typically, it's the independents that are having more difficulties than any others because they are one-man businesses. That must mean in turn that demand for your services, it's getting more competitive for you because there are other sign writers who are looking for their share of an ever-decreasing cake.
I think the answer to this is, well, it's several-fold, and we'll come on to the business networking bit at the moment. It is getting out there and talking to people about what it is that you do and reaching as many people as possible. But also, it's about finding other markets for your business. You know, the skills that I have can actually be translated into lots of different areas. And what I've really spent the last 4 or 5 years doing is taking those core skills and actually looking and finding other markets where they can be of use. You know, to use an example, I've done a lot of work in dementia units recently because dementia is a growing market, for want of a better word.
Indeed.
It is something that is increasing in this country.
Yeah.
And the track record for murals in dementia units is fantastic. It has such a positive effect. And so that's a growing market. So, what I'm not doing in sign writing, I'm doing elsewhere.
So from a hard-nosed business perspective, you need to evolve your business.
Absolutely.
So it's evolution, not revolution.
You cannot stand still as an entrepreneur. It's just not an option.
It's interesting you mentioned that because I remember, it must be 18 months ago now, the oncology department at the General Hospital commissioned a tremendous art installation, which was all to do with glass. It was stained glass, and work up on a glass area to improve the quality of the experience of people who were going through oncology treatments, which are very, very tough to come to terms with. Our surroundings, in that sense, are influenced by the colours, the light, and those sort of sensory sides of what we experience.
You are affected by the surroundings you have all the time, whether you realise it or not. And there is a huge psychology about colour and about pattern that I could sit and talk about all afternoon, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. But it is a massive topic, and it's something that happens to you whether you realise that it's happening to you or not.
Right. In the meantime, from our bright blue padded cell here at BBC Radio Northampton, which has its own impact on people's...
Very soothing and very calming.
Oh, I'm glad it's that. I'm glad it's soothing and calming. Networking, business networking.
Yes.
We've heard about Northamptonshire Bid, Northampton Bid, we've heard about Brackmills Bid and all kinds of organisations encouraging people to talk to each other as businesses, to celebrate each other, to, if you like, market for each other.
Absolutely.
That is a kind of networking. It's not quite what the networking group that you've been running in Pottersbury has been doing, and it's not quite what you're going to be doing with a new networking group here in town. I've been networking for a long time now. I ran 5 networking groups for 5 years, and I've been running the Last Hurdle networking for just over a year now. So I've seen a lot of networking groups come and go, and I've visited a lot of groups and found the things that I like and the things that work for me, and also found the things that actually I didn't like quite so much. And when I joined the Last Hurdle 2 years ago now, and I said to Jules, I want to start a networking group and I want to start something that is different from what's out there, I already had a really clear idea in my mind of what it is that I wanted to do. And for me, it's about getting businesses together to work together, to support each other from, just from simply looking out for each other points of view. But it's also about finding opportunities. It's very easy to go around very blinkered and to not see what else is going on out there. And what networking does is it introduces you to this whole range of other businesses who all ultimately want to achieve what you do, more sales, more business. And when you see how those businesses can work together to achieve the greater good, it's very, very exciting. So it's really exciting. The networking, it's almost like a series of spiders' webs in that case.
That's exactly what it is.
You're all touching each other. You're all talking about your businesses. Northampton got this top spot in this Experian report, which came up just a short while ago.
And this is fantastic.
Overall business performance. I mean, the timing for this, for you,
I know,
couldn't really be better, given that we went into recession in 2008.
Yep.
There are a lot of networking groups. Networking groups, as you said yourself, they come and go.
They do.
Is there a point where actually networking groups are all very well for their own networking group, but actually if you've got multiple networking groups, you effectively... You almost have too many in the market, don't you? Doesn't the networking then stop if you're part of one networking group? Or I'm already networking, but I'm not networking with that group over there, and I'm not working with that group over there. Is there not the danger that you actually throw up barriers to networking by having too many of them?
When I first started my first networking group in 2007, I was just outside Milton Keynes, and I contacted the Chamber of Commerce, as it was then, and said, I'm launching a new networking group. And they produced...
That's somebody wanting to join in with the next networking group. That's okay. You see, that's the power of radio.
Absolutely.
The minute you talk about it, somebody wants to be part of it.
Somebody wants to know. What they... Sorry, I've completely lost my train of thought now. So I started up this new networking group. I went to the Chamber of Commerce. I said, I want to know about networking groups. How many, what's going on in the networking group landscape? There were over 200 networking groups in Milton Keynes. 200. I mean, that's a phenomenal number. What you find is that people have different wants and needs from networking, and they also have different ways of wanting to network. So you will have a whole raft of people that want to network in the evening. You'll have another whole raft that want to network at 6:30 in the morning. Another lot that want to network at lunchtime. You have ones that want to meet weekly, ones that want to meet bi-weekly, ones that want to meet monthly. So actually, when you break it down, there actually isn't that many in the sort of bit of the day in the type of way that you want to network. So actually there isn't as much competition as necessarily you think there are. You've also got the specialist groups. So I used to work with the Women in Business Network, for instance, who is a women's only networking group, which was great and fantastic. But there are lots of different ways of networking, and we at The Last Hurdle encourage our members to really network as much as they can.
You've mentioned a couple of times that you've set up these working groups.
Yes.
You set one up in Pottersbury. You're about to open one up in Northampton, and we'll talk about that in a second.
Good.
Let me ask you a very straight question. How much extra business have you done as a business by being part of a networking group? Because it sounds great in principle. Go out and have a breakfast, you go and talk about your businesses, then you go off and run your business. How much has your business benefited by running a networking group or by being part of networking groups in the past? Because if it's not making you money, why do it?
This is quite a frightening statistic in that when I sat and did the figures, it is about 6 months ago now since I've done them, but I looked at my business over the previous 5 years, around 70% of my business comes via networking. I have just quoted for a job for a lady that I met at my very first networking meeting nearly 8 years ago. And I'm still doing business with her now 8 years later.
That's a very strong indictment of what is a modern day...
powerful.
It's a business social medium, if not social media. We're not talking about online stuff. You're talking about people getting together, meeting people. That's sometimes quite difficult in the society that we have. But as you said, first thing in the morning, last thing in the evening, maybe at lunchtime as well, when people who run businesses have got a few minutes and can do that. When are you proposing to get people together for the new networking group, which you're able to tell us about this afternoon?
I am.
At a location that not many people would imagine to be the home of a networking group.
We have chosen the Northants cricket ground for our location, and we did that for a number of reasons. Mainly location, if I'm brutally honest with you. It's very central, so it doesn't matter whereabouts in the Northampton area your business is located. You're basically coming to the centre of Northampton. But it's got lots of parking, because the bugbear with Northampton, I'm afraid, still is parking. And the fact that it has a massive car park and it's right in the centre of Northampton makes it very attractive. Having said that, the facilities that they've got there are absolutely superb. They can offer us the catering and the size of venue that we need to make the thing work at really very good rates.
And of course it's going to be a very high profile venue, if indeed it isn't already, with the way that Northampton Gigantic Cricket Club are doing the Steelbacks. Moving into a very important time for them. Having lots of businesses there has got to be good for their business too.
It's a two-way thing. It's interesting for me that if I look back at all the venues that I've used for my networking groups over the years, there has always been an advantage to that venue. We hold our networking meetings between 9:30 and 11:30 in the morning. So naturally, it's 11:30, 11:45. People often say, "Oh, do you fancy, staying on, having some lunch, continuing a meeting now?" And so there is a knock-on effect automatically. The pub that we use in Pottersbury, the Old Talbot, has had a fantastic success in just offering lunches to the networking members. So they often stay on and have some lunch, glass of wine, and carry on networking.
You talk about effectively an entire morning out of somebody's work, or maybe an entire afternoon out of somebody's work. If they're single operators, I can imagine that there are people listening to this who'd say, I can't afford that amount of time to be away from my business. If I'm not working at the business, and I am the business, I'm not making money during that period of time. What is the benefit of being part of a networking group? Do I learn something about how to run my business? Do I find contacts for future business? Is it an investment?
I would say you can't afford not to be business networking. If you were working for a larger company, you would probably have a sales meeting on a weekly basis where you get together and you look at your prospects and you say, right, this is what we're doing, this is what's happening, these are the new products we've got, these are the new customers that we've got on board, and you would sit and you would look at your business. What going to a networking event does is exactly that, but for a smaller business. And many of our businesses are not single-man businesses. They are, much larger than that. But it's it's a reason for you to get out of working with your business, to get out and to actually work on your business and to look at, where you're going to talk to your sales force. And this is how we ask people to promote themselves to the networking group. You are effectively talking to your salespeople about what's going on in your business. Where are your leads coming from at the moment? What new leads are you looking to gain? And that is how you should view a networking meeting. That's how I've always viewed my networking, and it should never be something that you're, being taken away from working in your business. That's not what it's about at all.
The old cliched phrase is that Britain is a nation of shopkeepers. It was used in Margaret Thatcher's time. It's been used since time immemorial, I suspect. Do you think business is changing because of the nature of the recession that we went into in 2008? As we come out of that, Northampton has this top spot as a result of this report which came out last week. We talked about it on BBC Radio Northampton. Are we moving out of recession? Is the nature of our business changing? And will single operators, small businesses, will they be the ones that benefit most?
It's very difficult to say, hand on heart. I think we are coming out of recession. I think it's actually more local than that. I've, again, just been talking to your receptionist and saying, I really feel like Northampton is going through a bit of a renaissance at the moment. I first moved to Northampton in 1984, and it was the most buoyant town. There were small businesses everywhere doing extremely well. And then things kind of went a little bit haywire for a while, and it felt like Northampton was almost running to try and keep up with some of the other towns in the area that seemed to be doing much better. I mean, Milton Keynes to name one. I think we've seen a reversal of trends, and I actually think Milton Keynes is maybe struggling a little bit now, and it's Northampton that's really starting to push ahead. And this Experian report can only help that. I think small businesses are the key to the success of any area. They will attract the larger businesses in because they will want to come to places where there are support businesses to help them.
The timing is good. March the 18th is the date for the new final hurdle.
The last hurdle.
Beg your pardon, last hurdle, final hurdle. Maybe it is the final hurdle as we head forward into financial prosperity and business prosperity. Northamptonshire County Cricket Club is going to be the venue. What sort of time of day and how do people either make contact in advance or can they just turn up on the day?
They can't just turn up on the day. We are a membership networking group, and we do that for specific reasons. We think it's important that you're not sitting in a room filled with your competitors. Someone like me is a mural artist. That doesn't happen to me very often. But if you're a photographer or a web designer or an accountant, you can often turn up to a meeting that isn't membership-based and be surrounded by your competitors. I don't see the point in doing that. So we are a membership organisation, so you are going to be the only person in that group doing what you do. And that allows you to really build your reputation within the group and establish yourself as the expert in what it is that you do. And we believe that that's important. So if you want to come along, you can either contact us through our Facebook page, The Last Hurdle, or you can go on to thelasthurdle.co.uk and all the information will be on there. Or you can email me at Sarah Hodgkins, all one word, at thelasthurdle.co.uk and sign up. It's just £12. I mean, that's a bargain.
She would say that. She's marketing. She's a businesswoman. She knows what the business is all about. The big business of small business, it means the economy, it means money in Northamptonshire, it also means jobs as well, and small business is very, very big business when it comes to that part of our economy. Northampton having taken that top spot in the recent Experian report published in the national press. Is that a result of just timing? Perhaps not. Perhaps networking really has come of age. Perhaps networking really is making a difference. In which case, if you run a business, and if you're listening to me in your van, if you're listening to me in your shop, if you're listening to Sarah here in the studio with us and you run a business, then maybe it's worth thinking about. Yes, you might have to invest a morning or an afternoon of your time, but if you can see the turnover and therefore the profitability of your business going up by about 70% over a period of time, isn't that worth thinking about? Sarah Hodgkins, lovely to have you in. Good luck.
Thank you very much, John.
The Mural artist who's going to be looking after the new business networking business, of course, at the home of the Steelbacks. Northamptonshire County Cricket Club, the date for the diary, March the 18th. Good luck.
Northamptonshire,
home of Salsey Forest,
Stunnock Lakes
and BBC Radio Northampton.